About 50 million years ago, the Indian subcontinent slammed into Eurasia. The music dissolves into the roar of impact. It was a collision that created more than mountains. It changed Earth forever. From that cataclysm rose the highest and most extensive highland world on the planet. In the thin, rarefied air, a special universe emerged. Isolated valleys, sacred peaks, hidden lakes, and spiritual traditions shaped over centuries, almost beyond the reach of the outside world. In eastern Tibet lies a region called Chamdo, a place where, side by side, three of Asia's great rivers force their way through the mountains: the Mekong, the Salween, and the Yangtze. They carve the land into deep gorges and sharp ridgelines, creating a landscape that feels both remote and dramatic. This is Kham, a historic region of Tibet with its own language, culture, and a distinctive way of building monasteries. For centuries, it was here that the tea horse road began. Caravans carried pu'er tea from Yunnan, crossed high mountain passes, and reached Lhasa. Along these trails, not only goods moved, but also ideas, beliefs, everything that shaped Tibet's path. Today, another route runs through these same mountains, National Highway 318, one of China's longest and most iconic roads. It stretches more than 5,000 kilometers from Shanghai to the border with Nepal. But it is the Tibetan section, from Kham onward, that has gained an almost legendary status. Sometimes it is called the Road to Heaven. It crosses more than a dozen high-altitude passes. Travelers pass snow-covered peaks, glacial rivers, and stretches where the road is draped in endless prayer flags. Some people walk the entire Tibetan portion on foot as a pilgrimage, turning the journey into an act of inner devotion. But as the road goes deeper into Kham, devotion takes on new forms. On the banks of the Lancang River in Markham County, a strange, almost unreal landscape appears. Hundreds of salt pans carved into red rock are laid out in terraces, like a geometric tapestry. These salt fields are more than 1,300 years old. They are still worked by hand. Each pan is cared for by one family, not as property, but as spiritual inheritance. Many believe the labor itself is a karmic duty tied to their bloodline and to the land. The salt does not come from the river. It comes from a sacred hot spring nearby. Before the season begins, families perform rituals and recite prayers, reminding themselves that the work here is always both physical and spiritual. In Old Tibet, Markham's salt was worth more than silver. It was carried on yaks across the passes and traded along the tea horse road. At sunset, the terraces flare up in pink and white, and the workers move slowly, almost like a dance. Their rhythm is set by the earth and by faith. Evening sinks into silence. The music is barely audible. Tibetan permafrost makes building roads and rail lines almost impossible. But on Highway 318, this struggle becomes part of the journey itself, and nowhere is it felt more strongly than on the new Dianzong descent. 72 hairpin turns. It drops more than 1,000 meters, cut into a near vertical wall in 72 tight loops. Many sections have no guardrails, and fog rolls in like waves. This is one of the most dangerous segments of the route. Once, tea caravans and military columns passed here. Now it is a test of courage, and a path taken by those who want to cleanse their karma. Along the road lie mani stones, flat slabs carved with Buddhist prayers. They stand like quiet guardians, blessing those who pass by. But not all of Kham's sacred landscapes lie along the highway. Sometimes you have to turn off into places where the silence grows thicker. Ding is a small town standing at the edge of the inhabited world. Here the road seems to dissolve, and authority returns to the land. The air is dry, motionless. Nothing hurries. Smoke rises above rooftops. Prayer flags rustle softly in the wind. And then, Just beyond the town, the earth changes. The red mountains of Ding rise without warning, torn colors of rust, scorched by iron, polished by wind. For locals, this is a sacred place. Some believe spiritual guardians live among the ridges. Others see the faces of deities in the rocks. This land is almost untouched. The trails are barely visible, left only by herders and rare pilgrims walking in silence. And in that silence, we move toward something almost no one has seen. High above the red cliffs, a monastery appears, like it is floating in the air. Chigju Monastery is built directly into a sheer rock face, with no obvious path leading up or down. It is the highest monastery on Earth, nearly 5,000 meters above sea level. Like many monasteries hidden on Tibet's steep slopes, its isolation is not accidental. It helps those who come here for deep meditation and long retreats. On the neighboring peaks, scattered along rocky ribs, are hermit cells, some occupied year-round. Monks and nuns live there in complete silence for months, sometimes for decades. This land at the foot of sacred mountains has long served as a place for solitary practice. Reaching Chigju is not easy. In winter, the path disappears entirely. But those who do arrive are met by a space cleansed of every kind of noise. There is no electricity, no cars, no voices, only wind and the faint whisper of prayer, flags in a world suspended between sky and earth. From here, the landscape begins to change. We descend into a region that feels like another world. Ningchi, often called the Swiss Tibet, for its alpine scenery and unexpected greenery. Because it lies at a lower altitude, Ningchi reveals a softer, almost gentle side of Tibet. A mild climate, dense vegetation, a liveliness rarely seen on the high plateau. Snowy peaks still rise above, but beneath them are forests, canyons, wet valleys bursting with every shade of green. This is the only corner of the Tibetan plateau where subtropical forests stand beside alpine ridgelines, a rare natural union found nowhere else. And within this rich and sharp landscape lies one of Earth's most unusual wonders, the Great Canyon of the Yarlung Tsangpo River, the deepest canyon on the planet. Here, the Himalayas drop sharply into tropical forest, and the land seems to split in two. The Yarlung Tsangpo, which later becomes the Brahmaputra, cuts its way with force and fury, creating a chasm so remote and difficult that it is called the last unexplored gorge on Earth. Its depth exceeds 5,300 meters, deeper than the Grand Canyon. Rains from the Indian monsoon feed these lands, weaving different ecosystems together. Alpine peaks wrapped in subtropical clouds, fog clinging to cliffs, and constant landslides reshaping the slopes. In the heart of the canyon, the river makes a dramatic 180-degree turn around a giant guardian, Namcha Barwa. Its summit rises to 7,182 meters, the eastern edge of the Himalayas, one of the most inaccessible 7,000ers. It is called the Hidden Mountain, most often concealed by clouds. In Tibetan tradition, Namcha Barwa is sacred. It is a male deity, a spear piercing the sky, a fierce guardian at the entrance to Pemako, a hidden land of spiritual awakening. Locals say that only a person with pure karma can see the peak clearly. The best place to catch its elusive silhouette is the Sejila Pass, a steep road rising above the tree line. On rare, clear mornings, the clouds part, and Namcha Barwa rises above the horizon like a vision. Here, the border between the material and the spiritual becomes blurred. Trails and passes are covered in prayer flags, blue for sky, white for air, red for fire, green for water, yellow for earth. The wind lifts them as offerings to forces we cannot see. They remind the traveler, this is not merely a place, it is a sacred threshold between what is known and what is hidden. and no journey through Nyingchi is complete without one fleeting miracle. Lower along the canyon, the air softens. In late March and early April, peach trees bloom in the high valleys, painting the slopes a delicate pink against snow-covered peaks. It is hard to believe such fragile flowers can exist beside harsh, jagged ridgelines, but that contrast is what makes the scene feel almost magical. Locals call this the Valley of Peach Blossoms. The season is short, but it is welcomed with quiet reverence. Families, pilgrims, and travelers come not only for beauty, but for the feeling of renewal. The air is fresh, the light is soft, and it feels as if nature itself pauses to honor this brief, perfect moment. High above the valley, the silhouette of Namcha Barwa is still visible, elusive yet constant, watching over the land like a guardian. In this part of Tibet, the path is never obvious. But if you follow the flowers, the river, and the prayer flags, you may suddenly find yourself at the meeting point of myth and reality. Leaving the forested valleys of Nyingchi behind, we move west again, through high passes, wide plateaus, and a sky that changes its mood every hour. The land rises and thins, roads grow emptier, horizons open, and the air takes on that ancient stillness found only at great altitude. And now we are in Ngari, one of the most remote and mesmerizing corners of the Tibetan plateau. It is called the roof of the world. Ngari lies above 4,500 meters. This is the desert of the third pole, a world of wind-burned plains, glacial lakes, and silence so deep it feels spiritual. Here, emptiness turns into presence, and every horizon stretches into infinity. Where valleys narrow and the lines of the horizon begin to dissolve, the earth becomes something almost unearthly. Before us is Zonda, the stone forest of the earth, a labyrinth of sharp clay spires carved by wind, water, and tectonic time. From a distance, it looks like a forgotten city, half swallowed by stone. It is the largest formation of its kind in Tibet, and perhaps the most surreal. Some towers rise more than 40 meters. Their silhouettes twist like fossilized tongues of flame. Local legends say these cliffs are ancient palaces turned to stone. And when sunset throws long shadows across the valley, it becomes easy to believe that life once truly boiled here. The deeper we walk into this stone labyrinth, the more the boundary between geology and history begins to fade. Caves appear in the rock. Tiny stairways climb carved stone steps. And here lies one of Tibet's great secrets, the ruins of the Kingdom of Guj. The scene feels cinematic. Red walls, steps cut directly into the mountain, and cave temples, where bright frescoes, painted 1,000 years ago, still cling to the walls. Faint outlines of Buddhas and mandalas stand beside broken statues and prayer niches, telling quiet stories of faith, power, and collapse. No one knows exactly why Gugai vanished. Some say it was betrayed and conquered. Others believe spiritual decline allowed the desert to swallow a kingdom that once managed to tame it. Today, silence rules, a city turned to dust, guarded by time and stone. And when your gaze slides along weathered walls and forgotten corridors, it becomes easy to imagine what this world once was. A kingdom built on faith, now dissolved into stillness. The ruins of Guj, surrounded by the alien beauty of the stone forest, remind us. Even the greatest empires disappear, leaving only a whisper the wind carries onward. When the stone walls of Guj fade behind us, the journey continues, across open plains, rising winds, and ever more silent landscapes. Life seems to vanish. The air thins, the silence grows denser, and then the signs return. Something calls us forward. All roads point in one direction. From the plateau rises a mountain of almost perfect shape. This is Kailash. It stands 6,738 meters high. It is not the tallest in the Himalayas, but for many, it is the most sacred. Buddhists, Hindus, Jains, and followers of Bon see it as the center of the universe, a place where the material and spiritual worlds meet. Its four faces look toward the cardinal directions, and four great rivers, the Indus, the Sutlej, the Brahmaputra, and the Karnali, begin near its slopes, as if the mountain breathes life into half of Asia. No one climbs Kailash, not because it is impossible, but because it is forbidden. To step onto its slopes would be to violate its sanctity. Instead, pilgrims walk around it, a ritual that has lasted for centuries. This Kora, a circuit of about 52 kilometers, is believed to cleanse a lifetime of karma. To complete it 108 times is to draw near to enlightenment. The path crosses passes, glacial streams, and wind-scoured stone fields, always under the still gaze of the sacred mountain. Prayer flags tremble along the trail. Pilgrims walk with prayer wheels, whispering mantras. Some complete the journey by full prostration, measuring the distance with their own bodies. For them, every step is not about kilometers. It is about meaning. South of Kailash lies Lake Manasarovar, the most sacred lake in Asia, a mirror turned toward the divine. In Hindu tradition, the god Brahma first saw this lake in his mind, and only afterward did it appear in the world. To touch its water is to wash away the karma of countless lives. For many pilgrims, the journey does not end at Kailash. After the Kora, they make a second circuit around the vast shoreline of Manasarovar, seeking not endurance, but inner stillness. On the full moon of Saga Dawa, it is said that deities descend to bathe in the lake, blessing its waters and all who come. Prayer flags ripple along the shore, the wind whispers over the surface, and in that silence, something sacred can be felt. In Nangari, the earth feels full of stories, but in Nagku, history dissolves. Only nakedness remains, wind without shelter, cold without relief, space without borders. At over 4,500 meters, the Changtang Plateau strips everything down to its essence. And yet life holds on. Nomads follow ancient seasonal routes. Yak hair tents battle the cold. Tibetan antelope flicker like shadows on the plains and vanish. This beauty does not shout, but if you stay with it, it gets under your skin. Even in such harsh land, moments of light appear. Wide, quiet, transparent. At an elevation of 4,918 meters, Nam Ko shines like a mirror laid directly against the sky, one of the highest salt lakes in the world. It is revered as a heavenly lake, linked to the nearby Nyenchen Tangalha Mountains. During the full moon of Saga Dawa, pilgrims walk its shores, seeking karmic purification. They say the lake embodies the feminine principle of water, balanced by the masculine force of the mountains, the harmony of earth and spirit. On the distant northwestern shore stands the sacred Elephant Gate, a stone arch descending into the water like the trunk of a giant. Carved by wind and time, it is considered a portal between worlds. Hermits once meditated here, and that silence hasn't vanished. From this gate opens one of Tibet's most revered views: sacred peaks, an immense sky, and the endless blue of Nam Ko. From these stone gates, where time and faith give meaning to every curve of rock, the road leads again into the wind-swept vastness of Nagku. Here, holiness is not always expressed through temples. Sometimes it rises from the earth itself. Deep in the hard-to-reach lands of Bengoin County stands what locals call the Tree of the Earth. A solitary stone formation rising from the barren plateau, like a tree pushing through sterile soil. Some believe it is the spiritual navel of the plateau, a place where earth and sky subtly touch. Though its shape was created only by nature, its living silhouette seems to hint at something more, a symbol of balance and endurance in a land where almost nothing can survive. In Tibetan cosmology, it is said to reflect the harmony of the four elements: earth, water, fire, and wind, gathered together like a natural mandala carved by silence. If you reach this far, there are no temples, no signs, no markers, only the open sky and the wind-raked plain. And yet, standing before the tree of the earth, it does not feel like a monument. It feels like presence, as if the earth itself chose this form to speak without words. Nowhere in Tibet, and perhaps nowhere in the world, is there a place like this. North of Bangguan, the Changtang Plateau opens into something almost impossible, a land without people. They call it the Changtang No Man's Land. It stretches over more than 600,000 square kilometers, one of the largest and most remote desert regions on the planet. High, open, unforgiving. At elevations above 5,000 meters, the air becomes thin, the wind cuts like a blade, and temperatures fall below -40. Weather is unpredictable. Sun, snow, hail, and storm can arrive in a single day. They say Tibet lives through 4 seasons in 24 hours. And nowhere is that truer than here. Most of this territory was never permanently inhabited. The heart of the Changtang is protected because its ecosystem is fragile. There are no roads inside, no villages, no trace of human life, only wind and space stretching to the horizon. But the land is not empty. Animals do not merely survive here. They belong to this place in a way humans never could. As we move closer to central Tibet, the lines of the landscape soften. Barley fields ripple under a wide sky. River valleys cradle ancient villages. The rhythm is calmer than the harsh contrasts of the high plateau. This is the region of Shigatse, the ancient granary of Tibet. Once the capital of a powerful kingdom, it rivaled even Lhasa, leaving behind fortresses, monasteries, and traces of strength that shaped the region's fate. Today, it is a spiritual crossroads where pilgrims stop before continuing west, toward Tibet's most sacred places. At the heart of the region stands the city of Shigatse, a historic center of power and pilgrimage. Above it rises Tashilhunpo Monastery, founded in 1447 by the first Dalai Lama and later becoming the seat of the Panchen Lama, the second most important spiritual figure in Tibet. Pilgrims walk the monastery's kora, a sacred circuit, spinning prayer wheels. Each turn, they say, carries merit equal to thousands of spoken prayers, a quiet devotion carried by the wind. From the calm of Shigatse, the road leads southeast, not far in distance, but heavy with memory. Gyantse Dzong rises sharply above the Nyang River Valley, one of the best-preserved fortresses in Tibet. It once guarded the route between Lhasa and the west, and it was called the Little Potala of the West. But this fortress has its own history. In 1904, it became the center of fierce resistance against the British military expedition. Armed only with swords and old weapons, local defenders stood against modern artillery. The marks of that violence are still visible. Scorched stone, shattered battlements, a quiet archive of what happened. Today, Gyantse Dzong stands peacefully. The battle ended long ago, but its scars still speak. At the foot of the fortress lies Pelkor Choda Monastery, home to the Gyantse Kumbum, the largest stupa in Tibet. It consists of 9 terraced levels and 108 chapels, a walkable mandala guiding the visitor through symbolic stages of enlightenment. This monastery is unique in another way. It unites 3 major schools of Tibetan Buddhism, Gelug, Sakya, and Kagyu, within one sacred space, a rare example of harmony expressed not only in doctrine, but in architecture and the images covering its walls. Among its greatest treasures are thangkas, sacred scroll paintings depicting deities, mandalas, and spiritual teachings. This is not merely art, it is visual scripture. Every image, every color, every gesture is part of a path toward enlightenment, transmitted through vision rather than words. Creating a thangka takes months, sometimes years. The process itself is considered meditation, strict ritual, repeated mantras, deep spiritual concentration. Leaving the great peaks behind, the road enters wide valleys and gradually climbs again, leading to a place truly extraordinary. The route begins not with the first step, but with 108 hairpin turns carved into the mountainside, like brushstrokes of quiet devotion. These 108 turns lead to the Gawula Pass above 5,000 meters. In Tibetan tradition, 108 is a sacred number. It appears in prayer, beads, temple steps, and mandalas. It symbolizes spiritual completeness. At the top of the pass, the horizon opens. Before us rises a wall of white giants, 5 of the world's highest peaks standing shoulder to shoulder. The road behind glints like a silver thread. Ahead, the Himalayas rise like a boundary between earth and sky. At the end of the long journey, the land opens wider. Above 5,000 meters lies Rongbuk Base Camp, a harsh plateau of wind and stone where the mountain reveals its true scale. The air here is thin. Oxygen levels are only about half of what they are at sea level. For climbers, this is the beginning. For most, it is the farthest point they will ever reach, a place where a person falls silent in wordless awe. Although the summit is still about 20 kilometers away, Everest feels overwhelmingly close. Its height is more than 8,800 meters. It dominates the horizon, vast, immovable, always present. Just below stands Rongbuk Monastery, the last threshold between the human world and something far greater. Here it becomes clear why Tibetans call Everest Chomolungma, the mother goddess of the world. But not far from Everest, the landscape softens. Snow and stone give way to quiet fields of green and gold. At more than 4,000 meters, the lands of Tingri are among the highest farmlands on Earth. Barley and potatoes grow here, and yaks pull wooden plows as they have for countless generations. The climate is harsh, thin air, short seasons, yet the land lives through rhythm and care. Everest hangs over the horizon, but life continues calmly, in balance. Then comes the region of Shannon, the place where Tibetan civilization was born. Here, myth and history intertwine. In the wide Yarlung Valley, barley fields sway. Nearby stand ancient royal tombs and rock carvings, traces of Tibet's formation as a kingdom. Many key cultural and spiritual events began here: the birth of monarchy, the arrival of Buddhism. Above the valley rises Yumbulagang, the oldest building in Tibet. Tradition says it was built for the first legendary king, Nyatri Tsenpo. The slope where the palace stands is called the First Field, a symbol of the union of land, power, and the divine. Later, under King Songtsen Gampo, Yumbulagang became a temple, marking the transition from ancient royal tradition to Buddhism. The building is small, but its meaning is immense. This is where Tibet's cultural identity began. Around the same time, in the 7th century, the Tibetan script was created, not for everyday speech, but to translate sacred texts from Sanskrit. This moment became a turning point for the entire culture. These threads of faith and identity are woven across the land. And one place where they can be felt with special clarity is Yamdrok Lake, a vast, motionless mirror set among snow-covered ridges and sunlit meadows. Tibetans call it the mirror of the sky on the chest of the earth, and standing before it, it is easy to understand why. It is often called the turquoise heart of Tibet, one of the 3 most sacred lakes, honored in both legend and reality. From above, Its outline resembles a scorpion, a symbol of hidden power and divine protection. On one peninsula, a small heart-shaped pool sometimes appears, a mark of nature visible only in certain light. Local traditions say Yamdrok is the transformation of a goddess, and that its energy is tied to Tibet's life force itself. If the lake were to dry up, the land would become uninhabitable. For centuries it has drawn pilgrims, hermits, and seers. Many spent years in solitude in nearby monasteries and caves, praying beside a source of power they believed flowed from the lake. Clinging to a sheer cliff in the area of Alhungtse is Selung Monastery, often called the Hanging Monastery of Tibet. From afar it seems to defy gravity, held to a bare rock wall high above the valley floor. Reaching it is not easy. A narrow trail, steep steps cut directly into stone, and the journey itself becomes meditation. Selung began as a refuge for solitary hermit monks, and later became a small monastery of the Nyingma tradition. The rooms here feel more like natural caves than halls, a space for silence and withdrawal from the world. From the ledge before the monastery, a view opens. Dense forests, deep gorges, distant snowy peaks. At such heights, everything feels quieter. Locals say prayers rise more easily here, carried by the wind and the mountain itself. Founded in 1409 by Tsongkhapa, Ganden Monastery is one of the main centers of Tibetan Buddhism. The road to its golden roofs climbs through steep switchbacks along a bare ridge, as if wrapping the mountain with a thread. At more than 4,300 meters, Ganden feels like a landing platform between worlds, where sky, mountain, and spirit meet. At its heart stands a stupa, containing the silver and gold reliquary of Tsongkhapa, surrounded by pilgrims and prayer flags trembling in the mountain wind. Although Ganden was damaged during the Cultural Revolution, it was rebuilt by returning monks and still holds centuries of devotion. Ganden and Selung belong to the same region, a cultural heartland where Tibetan identity was formed. Here lies Tibet's spiritual capital, Lhasa. At 3,050 meters above sea level, Lhasa is one of the highest cities in the world. For 1,000 years, it has remained Tibet's cultural and religious center. Its name means place of the gods. Pilgrims come here from across the plateau, some from Kham, traveling thousands of kilometers, performing full prostrations with each step, measuring the road with their own bodies. The Barkor, the sacred route around Jokang Temple, becomes a living river of devotion. Prayer wheels spin, mantras are whispered, incense smoke rises into the mountain air. Jokang Temple, built in the 7th century, is considered the holiest temple in Tibet, the heart of Tibetan Buddhism. Inside is housed the Jowo Shakyamuni, the most revered statue of the Buddha, which tradition says he blessed during his lifetime. Later, it was brought to Tibet by Princess Wencheng. For many people, a lifetime of prayer comes down to a single moment, when their eyes meet the golden gaze of Jowo. Above the city rises the Potala Palace, Tibet's most recognizable symbol. 13 stories, more than 1,000 rooms, a fortress of faith. It was once the winter residence of the Dalai Lamas, and for centuries Potala stood at the center of spiritual and political power. The Red Palace holds sacred scriptures, relics, and the golden stupas of past Dalai Lamas. The White Palace was the administrative heart, a place where spiritual wisdom and state authority existed under one roof. Every staircase, every hall is a layer of memory, the scent of incense, the echo of mantras, centuries of silence and reverence. And despite the world's changes, Potala remains unmoving, a monument not only to history, but to the endurance of faith. At dawn, its silhouette rises through mountain mist, not as a relic, but as a living symbol. Here, above the city, you understand. In Tibet, tradition does not vanish. It continues, quietly, faithfully, always upward. Open the world, explore the unusual. See you on the next journey.